You are listening to Talking Utter Slot, the podcast about grown men having fun playing with toy cars. That isn't what I wrote, I know.
You've thrown me there. Oh, God. Right, okay. Should we do a blooper reel?
We'll do a blooper reel.
Right. Should we go again?
Yeah. Go again. I don't, the thing is I'm trying not to read. And of course that's fatal. Right. You are listening to Talking Utter Slot, the podcast about grown men having fun with Scalextrics and slot cars in general.
Hi everyone, I'm Nick, and in this episode, we answer the question that's on everyone's lips. Has Scalextric made the Lotus Esprit driver especially tubby for the new version?
I'm Scott, and we'll also be wondering which Datsun 510 will hit the shops first, Slotter or Revo Slot.
And we'll be discussing why brown cars matter.
Brown cars, yes. Shall we go straight to brown cars? I think that's the most important thing, to be honest.
Whether intentional or not. Now, before we still haven't laid hands on a Scalextric Martini Lotus 79. The jury is still out on the social medias as to whether or not it is an accurate green or if it is indeed brown. There's a new video that Scalextric put up of the car, which I saw on Instagram this weekend. And the car's going so fast you can't tell what colour it is.
Doppler effect, has it? It's colour shifted.
I think they're teasing us. They want the conversation to continue. So that
everyone, okay. Oh, well,
when they finally see the car, they're going to be so excited they're just going to buy one anyway, I think.
Sounds like me. Speaking of which, something I saw, which I had to buy as soon as it came out, was this brown car. And It's very definitely brown. For those watching in radio, I'm holding up a recently announced Fly Renault 5 Turbo, DD Oriole, Tour de Corse 1984, and it's brown and blue. Now, whether it really is brown and blue, or whether it should be kind of Aston Villa-esque claret and blue, I don't know. So I haven't checked the real thing, but it's wonderful. And although I'd said I'm not buying any more Renault 5 Turbos, I had to buy this one. And I don't know how many liveries there are of these things. Obviously, clearly a million.
There's one that I keep seeing at Race Retro, the sort of season opening historic rally thing, and it's metallic blue and it's got some French fish shop on it, and I just desperately need that livery. And
Rafa, if you're listening, I don't think he does, unfortunately, but Rafa, I'll say.
Get on Google Translate and send him a note.
I see. It'd be quite interesting to see what the auto-translate makes of all of that. Yeah. Well, we'll make him a special little reel, just 50 seconds. Dear Mr. Fly, please make for Nick a French chip shop. Chip shop? No.
Just a fishmonger.
A fishmonger, Renault 5.
Yeah.
Well, I'll edit that. It'll be great when we do it. Anyway, I had to have it. And it goes like all the other ones, which is that the front wheels slightly stick and it makes quite a lot of noise. But once you get it going, it's great.
I'm just going to have to get one. I'm afraid I'm going to have to join you in the Brown Club there.
But I was the only other brown slot car, and this may be a whole subset of collecting. So Maurizio at Slottic collects only 6-wheel Formula 1 cars, which is a fairly finite lump of cars. But brown slot cars could be even narrower, because I can only think of one other one, which is the Fly 250 GTO.
Yes, one which was proudly in my collection for many years.
Ah, right, okay. Is it now gone somewhere? Has it to fund Miami Vice car or something? Yeah.
It did, yes, and I now have a brown Miami Vice car.
But I can't think of any other brown car. And it may be that brown is a much underrepresented colour in motorsport liveries. And that's...
Yes. UPS, there's the UPS Porsches.
Yes. So suddenly that's a 33% income, 50% increase, actually. Sorry, get my percentages the right way around. Suddenly the brown car slot car collection is 50% bigger. At this point, if we were that sort of show, I'd say, leave a comment in the comments. Let us know about any other brown. No, I'm trying to think of companies other than UPS who's got a brown. Well,
there was there was the Pro Slot chocolate Porsche 911 as well.
See, suddenly it's like it's becoming unobtainable already. It's just expanding.
Back of the net. Yeah, this is brilliant.
Well, and I predict there'll be a fifth one at the very least, because Scalextric, having done the Lotus 79, and the liveries on that are pretty limited if they don't go to Mr. Raback. And his cars were definitely brown.
They were. Yeah.
They're definitely brown. So I look forward to one of those, actually. That'd be quite good. Anyway, so I completely diverted us from where we should be going and talking about brown cars. But I do, brown cars matter. And that may be the title of the show.
But meanwhile, I've got a question. What's caught your eye, Scott?
Oh, I'm glad you asked that. Well, can I continue? I want to... we don't have a slot about what Scalextric's got wrong this week, really. But in the pictures and videos that came from New York Toy Fair, on the Hornby stand in general, so to be fair, not Scalextric, they had a case with a giant Porca kit of the Lotus 72 in GPS livery. Those kits are 900 quid, 1,000 quid or something, aren't they? They're huge. I don't know what scale they are, 1/8 or something.
Yes, yeah.
Anyway, the airbox, the very distinctive airbox, which let's us not forget has got a hole at one side in the front and not at the back, was on the wrong way round. And so at first I thought, I've got some sympathy with that. Someone's built the stand and put that on, hasn't noticed. And I thought, well, if there were several people from the company milling around and nobody noticed that the thing which you buy because of its accuracy has got the airbox wrong. So I'm sure you can turn it round. Anyway, so it was
everyone, wasn't it? Everyone from Scalextric was there. Everyone from Hornby was there.
Everyone.
Everyone was there. Yeah. I hope they have a blooper reel too.
I don't think quite everyone, but yeah, there did seem to be a lot of people there. I guess
Tracy from accounts and.
I think it just takes it's a measure of how important the US market is. So there's probably going to be a flood of Camaros and Mustangs and oversized engined cars from now on. But maybe no bad thing. More seriously though, the other thing which caught my eye, which was interesting, was the Revo slot. Get it the right way around. I've announced a Datsun 510. Which only a few months ago slotted. You're not a fan of Datsuns, are you?
No. No. Datsun and Nissan are the Carrera of one-to-one cars.
Oh, what sort of strong quality, cost affordable,
just
all that good
engineering
stuff.
The joy out of what it essentially is.
Yeah. I have there's a sort of mental cool wall's the wrong word, isn't it? There's a kind of mental chart. I need to get it behind. I need a giant metallic magnetic board behind me where we can put a kind of two axes, whatever they might be, cool, functional, whatever you want it to be, and we plot various slot car manufacturers on them, and see where they sit. And I think Carrera, given that they do faithful copies of real cars, they do fantastic fantasy trucks. They model such a wide range of stuff: F1, GTs, all that stuff. So, and I've never had a Carrera that hasn't worked straight out the box. Had round axles, plant a Carrera down, it always works. Won't be the quickest car, but
we have classes for Carreras because obviously you can't really race Carreras against anything else other than Carreras. And if you've got a bunch of Carreras, it should be fun. It should, and I'm just sitting there going, "Oh, God, it's only lap 4. Got 6 more laps to go."
Well, last week we barely got to any races. I should explain. We run crash and burn at the club, and each race is meant to be 10 laps. But if and it's a 4-lane track, so if 2 cars fall off and therefore are not put back on, and there are only 2 left, it immediately goes to 2 laps to go just to save time, because sometimes somebody's very much in the lead or whatever. And so, it just got to the point where I think we were, it was like 1 or 2 laps and races were over because everybody was throwing themselves off. It was the first week of new classes. So it was all unfamiliar cars and all that sort of thing. That's the only excuse. And I think it was about class 4 before we got to a 10-lap race, which felt fairly exhausting, but never mind.
We have got some wobbly ones, haven't we? But whilst we're just briefly touching on the club, just to say, get well soon to our chairman, Graham, who got taken ill last night, but sounds like he's in the right hands. So look after yourself, and we'll see you come back and collect all your 16-point rounds very soon.
Get well soon, mate. So the Nissan. The thing about the Nissan was quite like it. It's a bit like the Pumas, the rally Pumas with SCX and Scalextrics. Scalextrics announced first, SCX announced second. SCX got theirs to the market first. Will we see the same with Slot It and Team Slot? So not Team Slot, Revo Slot. I would be. Now there's an interesting thing. I would be inclined to get the Slot It one rather than the Revo Slot one, and I don't really know why. But there you go. Less rattly, more likely to be. Yeah, that's so. That's what caught my eye. What about you?
I mean, if we could make a rally one, and I think you can make rally ones, it might be of interest, possibly. But it's a Datsun.
You told me an interesting thing about rally versions of a car we've already mentioned tangentially, actually, which is the Scalextric Lotus Esprit in racing livery, which is already. I mean, I must confess, I don't think I've got encyclopedic motorsport knowledge by any stretch of imagination, but as an avid Autosport reader for all that time, I don't remember a Lotus Esprit racing. So when they announced that car at the beginning of the year, I thought that's quirky. But you've told me not only should that the larger than average driver in that one, but you told me there's also rally liveries of a Lotus Esprit, and I was dumbfounded.
Indeed. In fact, one did turn up at Goodwood a few years ago. Didn't look much like the cars in period pics, but there was a Lotus Esprit rally car there. In the early 80s, there were competitors in Greece and in France, 1 or 2 British events that did turn up on gravel in fairly standard-looking Esprit turbos. And there was an S2 in JPS colours that was rallied in road rallies in France. So, Simon and Scalextric does have considerable opportunity for rally schemes from the Lotus. I think there's probably half a dozen that can be done. The car that's out at the moment is one that I had marked on the must have this year. It's the Jerry Marshall Prod Sports Lotus Esprit Turbo, which was up against basically a lot of MG midgets and other road sports cars that were popular in the late 70s, early 80s, and it ran in 82 to 84, I think. Andy Rouse built the car for Pete Hall ICS, who sponsored it, and Pete shared the car often with Jerry Marshall, the legend. And some people have even been messaging me to say, is it me, or is the driver particularly big in this one? Because Jerry was huge. He was tall, he was a big personality, and he drank an awful lot of beer. So he was gigantic compared to pretty much anyone. And so I did actually, because I knew we were going to talk about this, I messaged Simon at Scalextric this morning and said, just going to talk about your car. Is the driver actually really big? And he went, no, I wish it was. We'd have loved to have done that, but we don't have the budget for things like that. So the thing is that people are perceiving Jerry to be an accurate scale Jerry, which I think is a really cheap win for Scalextric.
Excellent, isn't it? I mean, I did look at the picture, and it's a bit like the Mona Lisa's eyes. Are they really falling? Is it really? Is he a little bit tubbier than you would expect? So I'm all for big drivers, as you can imagine. But anyway, no. So the notion when you said rally esprits, I thought that's insane. The fragile fiberglass thing. But of course, so was a Stratos, and so was a Clan Crusader, and a whole load of other
Darien,
God, yeah. So yeah, it makes once you sort of stop it, it's just because you think of it as being this kind of delicate road car thing.
Is there a slot Darien?
Oh no! That's a niche beyond niche.
I could get Jexy collecting again and be like, no, there was one I didn't have.
you realise I'm going to have to scour the depths of the internet to find a picture of a Darien to try and explain what we're talking about? No, there can't be. Can't be, surely not. I mean, that's an Area 71 car. Careful what you wish for. Careful what you wish for. Anything else you want to that's there is, and yes.
There's another Datsun. We're besieged by Datsuns.
Well, no, that wasn't what. Oh, yeah, well, yes, that's true. That wasn't what I was thinking of. But yeah, the I want Avant slot. The blah blah. That wasn't an electronic glitch. That was a mental one.
I've just been looking at all the slot rally guys salivating over these videos coming out of Spain of the first track tests, and they're all going, "Oh, we need to get one of those slot rallies back next year. That looks like a weapon." So clearly, it's doing the right things, making the right noises, and moving rather rapidly around people's slot rally tracks.
Every picture I see of it, it looks better. I have to say. Because at first I thought, is it a little bit clunky and I think definitely in livery it looks a lot better. But I'm going to hold out, famous for my willpower. I'm going to hold out for a red, white, and blue one. That's if you're going to have a Nissan, it's going to be a red, white, and blue one, I would say. No, the thing I thought you were going to mention was yellow. If I hint that way.
Oh yes. So staying on the Revo slot theme. The Corvettes out, which I know caught your eye some months ago. So Revoslot C5R Corvette, and as if by magic, again, my socials this weekend got bombarded with some footage, which I'm very familiar with, of Dale Earnhardt Sr. in his last full race, which was the Daytona 24 Hours of 2001. And he drove that car with Dale Jr. It was a big thing. And I can't remember if they won the class or came second or third. Anyway, I think they did win the class. It was mighty. And you just get this onboard footage of, the iconic driver with the massive moustache and this soundtrack, which you need to have on full blast on your best speakers or headphones and just enjoy. And so now Revo's come out with its C5R. It's worth it just for that.
Okay, I look forward to the build because you said you're going to have to get a white kit to do the exact livery. Is that right?
It's not much of a build. It's a can of yellow paint, but it's.
Well, I don't know. You probably didn't listen to the last episode. The one that Alan started the kit bashing section on Slot Forum. People go, "That's not kit bashing. That's just putting decals on." Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's highly unlikely that any slot car manufacturer could afford to pay Teresa Earnhardt the right to use the iconic number 3 that was on the car. So in that case, you're going to have to do it yourselves, boys and girls. But it is infinitely possible to do, and there is a white kit, which I hope Revo will keep in production because I'm not going to be able to afford one for a while, and I don't want them all to sell out before I get the chance to do an Earnhardt car.
It's interesting. Do they do a run of white kits, and then is that what they do first? I get the impression they do the white kits and then get them out, and then they do the liveries.
Yeah, I base it all on the Slot-It model, where Slot-It comes out with Seeker XXA as the first one, and it also comes out with Seeker XXZ as the white kit of that same first version. And then any iteration after that, sometimes you get a white kit with it. In fact, I think most times you get a white kit with it. So, like the new 956 has a different number. It's a Seeker 09, like the 956 short tail, but it's a Z1, I think. No, an A1, and now there's a Z1 or something. I don't know. It's getting into Porsche territory for nerdy numbers and things. But
I guess if you're remembering chassis numbers for slot cars,
it's bad. But then again, I do have a few slotted Porsches. But the white kit is usually the same spec as the last update. And I presume quite small numbers compared to the.
That was going to be my next question: is how many they make? I'm guess I don't know whether a white kit helps boost the overall use of the tooling, but whether it's a random number to get to a round number, or whether they do 1,000. I genuinely don't know how popular white kits are. And I guess there's a whole, just because I don't buy them, they're not my thing. But I guess there's a whole section of the market which is about the reliverying.
Yeah,
but limited numbers. That was this. There was only I'm going to get it wrong now without the box. I think it was something like 300, 350 of that livery done. But that mould's obviously been used for 20 years. But yeah, the reason I mentioned it is they actually did put a number on it. There's X of Y sort of thing.
The rarest white kit I've got was the Fly with Avant slot, when they teamed up and they put Avant slot bits and a posh chassis under the BMW M1 and the Porsche 911. I think those are the only two. And I've got the Porsche 911, but there are only 75 of each of those.
That's pretty rare, yeah.
And I've now obviously painted it because,
Well, and it's good.
It's
slightly. In the old days, of course, you would have to have sort of gone to Spain to pick up some of those kind of limited stuff. I mean, I think even that Renault was a Spain shop limited edition, but now you can get them from anywhere, and it's great. And not in Barcelona, as you found out. Probably explain you were working in Spain at the weekend.
I was. I went to the final round of the FIA European Autocross and Crosscar Championships. Autocross, obviously, in this country means bouncing around a field in a Mini with no windows in it. Over there, it's massive, frankly. And you get anything from 75 horsepower karts for 13 to 16-year-olds to 750 horsepower four-wheel drive buggies powered by engines out of BMW M3 GTRs and Porsche 911 GT3s. And it's madness. The tracks are less than a kilometre long, so just over half a mile. And it's crazy. Yumps, bumps, jumps, and just massive awesomeness. So I went over there for that. I was in bus, it's hour and a half out of Barcelona. There's big slot car shops with tracks everywhere, but the working hours on a weekend mean that whenever I was out of the track, the shops were shut, which was annoying, particularly because I saw the Avant Slot Lancer white kit in the local slot car Emporia / club, and it was €38. €38, and it was in line, so directly ready to go into Slot Rally GB next year. And no time to go and get one. So that was irksome. You can't go to Barcelona and not come back with a slot car, but I did.
Well, I've been in the old days when I had a job, a couple of times I would do that. Because if the shops don't open till, was it 10 or something? So if you got a flight out in the morning, usually that was the only time I had free time. And of course the shop wasn't open, or they'd be shut round about late afternoon, because that was again. But I still have got a few cars which have still got the Palau sticker on them from picking them up from that shop. So it is always nice. But yeah, €38, that's a lot cheaper than we get.
A lot cheaper. It was actually really cheap. There was so many bits and pieces. Stupidly, in between races, if I had nothing else to do, then I was looking on the phone at what was available in these shops and going, "Arr!" So there was the SCX MGA, which I think would actually be quite a competitive car for our tourist trophy class, and that was €28.99. And I was like, yeah, I got to get there, and I couldn't. So,
which Emporium was this? Can you name names?
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head. It was in Lleida, which is spelt with two L's, so probably some Spanish Welsh connection there. Why they
Spanish, but sorry, I'm moving on. Talking about the cars in the championship you've been working on all year. You're going to carry on that association in a smaller form.
We could have
a Talking Utter Slot announcement here.
A Talking Utter Slot announcement. So, I've been thinking of ways to model my kids, because my kids' cars. I look after have looked after the Crosscar Academy, which is for 13 to 16-year-olds, running these little buggies built by Thierry Neuville's company, actually, the World Rally Championship driver, Live. And I've been looking at, maybe Tamiya RC cars, because that's what they sort of look like. All autocross cars look like full-size Tamiya RC cars. Could I do that? Well, I'm not an RC person, and when I tried it, I was hopeless. And it's a big thing, and it's a lot of money. So go with what you know. And funnily enough, we had a sell-off at the club of unused and unwanted classes and cars and so on at the end of last year. And we had some left over. So I was able to buy 4 of the Power Slot quad bike, which actually resembles, and we will be sticking pictures on of what a Crosscar looks like. It's actually, the wheels are perfect. The yes, drop arm, everyone. And the motor and everything is all just slotted into the body, and there's a screw at the back, and that's that. So I bought 4 of these, very battered, with tyres that you can't replace. I think possibly the Scalextric small wheel saloon tyres of the 70s might just go on there. But anyway, these Power Slot quads have been abused ever since they first arrived at the club as a class, which we, I think, bought from Gauge Master or something when they first came out at club price. And I bought all 4 of them for a tenner. And so from this, we've now got this, which actually sits at the perfect wheelbase for a 1/24-ish Crosscar. And so I've been working on designs for an chassis.
Mm-hmm.
And after trawling around all the various 3D people and trying to get insights from, everyone's been very helpful, how to go about making a new type of slot car. Because obviously you've got, like, Pendle's just come out with Formula 2 stock cars, which I think it's done with the Area 71. You can also get stock cars now from AA Bodies, which he's done with Amato Design. And Angelo does 3D chassis for everything on Facebook, and he came up with a way to have a Lexan body on effectively a modernized Scalextric stock car chassis, and you can build your own to your heart's content and race them on little ovals. Now, so out of all those guys, JS Chassis Design sort of came to my rescue and took pity on me and thought that the cars actually looked quite cool. So we're going to try and make a body, a sort of a generic body, because I think Thierry might get annoyed if I completely rip off his intellectual property. But just to have for my collection for Crosscars to remember my time in the series whenever I stop would be rather nice. And something rather different. And I did actually speak to Steve at Staffs, who imports Team Slot and Avant Slot, and he mentioned Crosscar. And because it is such a thing in Europe, they've now sort of pricked up their ears. I mean, you get 40 cars in the senior class entering those races. The races are mad crazy. They've got motorcycle engines on quad bike wheels with these proper little racing carts, and it's probably one of the few multi-chassis categories outside of Formula 1 these days, because everyone's gone to one make racing. And so you can build your own car, you have guidelines that you follow, and off you go. And it's just brilliant and really competitive. So I just wanted to document that part of life in slot form, and thanks to JS, I think we're going to get somewhere close to it.
So what have you got in, and not to turn it into a work project, but when do you think you'll have a working car?
Probably in the new year, I'd have said. But I'm going to aim for January to have an prototype.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe if that works and it's all fine, we can do the run of 3. And then if we've got 4 working cars, maybe we can sort of show them around and get people interested at a manufacturer level. I mean, the world needs more exciting and accessible motorsport, particularly when Formula 1's as dull as it is. So we should really be pushing things like this. That's my feeling. That's just my feeling.
Yeah. Well,
God's sake.
Yes, it's just a particular conundrum. So, yeah, somebody wants to go ahead and make them, but they want to put them in a Nissan livery. No, no. All right. Well, that's cool. I think that's having something that's you've got a connection with clearly makes it's a strong thing to do.
I am quite passionate about it. I'm passionate. I mean, they're just lovely people. It's grassroots. It's proper stuff. Everyone has to go to work on a Monday to pay for their racing the following weekend.
Sounds like us slot car guys, really. Well, I don't go to work, but you know what I mean. Now, the other thing, because you've been a busy boy building, haven't you, or starting building?
Yes.
And these are very small and British.
Yes. So,
and we could probably do a musical cue, but they would get caught for copyright.
Yeah,
therefore, that's my
penniless.
excuse for not singing at this moment.
So I have got 4 Scalextric Mini Coopers, classic version, that have been sitting around for a while. It caused some heartache when I announced that I had stripped and repainted the first of them, because it was the pink Mini with the flowers on it, which is apparently quite rare, or quite valuable or something. The fact that it's got 2 people sitting in it. Not anymore, no. It's got 2 figures in it who are definitely not hippies. They look like they're coming round to mug you.
In a Mini. In
a pink Mini with flowers on it, just to...
very politically correct movie, that one, yeah.
But so it's now turned metallic black. And the reason why it's metallic black is that it's going to be a Radford DeVille conversion of the kind supplied to Then Their Beatles is. It's Fab and Gear. So, long story about how they were paying far too much in tax and managed to set up a motor trading company which didn't make much money, or in fact lost money, which was actually quite helpful for their tax return. And amongst the cars that they bought were 4 very expensive Minis, and they had 1 each. And John's was all black, so was George's, and then George subsequently, after Sergeant Pepper, painted his red with lots of tantric symbols all over it, and that's how it remains today. Paul had one painted in Aston Martin sage green, and Ringo had one with a hatchback in dark metallic red. So all of these Minis are going to be converted to Beatles spec, primarily because for some reason, and I all I do is slap a bit of paint about and occasionally glue things together. But it's gone a bit weird recently. So I had a message from a friend of mine called Ken, who bought some of my stuff 10 or 15 years ago. He's in America. I built some pre-war Grand Prix cars, and he collects those. And anyway, he messaged me out of the blue a couple of weeks ago and said, "Oh, your cars have gone into a museum." Well, apparently there's a Chicago toy museum, and they haven't got any slot cars. And Ken's giving it up because he's feeling his years a bit, and he has chosen to slow down and build 1/10 scale crawlers. So his slot car collection has been dispersed, but some of them he was asked, because he builds beauties. They were asked if they could go into a museum. So some of mine and some of his are now in the Chicago Toy Museum, which is odd. And then the editor of Motorsport asked me if I could do a piece about that side of things with slot cars. And so that's why I'm doing the Beatles cars for him, basically, because he's the biggest Beatle nut I know. Which in the motorsport journalistic community goes quite a long way, really.
And so that means you've got a deadline both for the story and for the cars, then?
And for the cars. I mean, I might just stick to John's at the moment, because John's and Paul's had Aston Martin DB5 rear lights on them.
Okay.
So, I've got 2 Airfix 132nd DB5 kits, which are about to lose their rear lights. And George's and Ringo's had Volkswagen Beetle rear lights on them. And I've got 2 1/32 Beatle kits, which are about to lose their rear lights as well. But I think just to get one done nicely, and it would make sense to do Lennon's, because that's the legendary missing car.
That lead's missing. There's a mystery.
Oh, there is a mystery, yeah. Basically, right. John's Mini is absent. I think I've seen it, and lots of people claim to own it, but there is no 100% guarantee. So whilst we know that Paul's, George's and Ringo's cars are real, and in fact, Christian Horner and Mrs. Horner, former Ginger Spice, they own Paul's and Ringo's. And then George Harrison's family still owns his car. So we know where those three are. Lennon's is this great mystery to both the Beatles community and the Mini people, which you will struggle to find two more passionate / argumentative groups on Earth. And this is
the plot to a slightly comedic movie, isn't it? Sort of the Beatles memorabilia collectors and Mini fans who like collecting stuff as well. I mean, this has got, this could be West End Story written small.
Exactly. Well, I mean, the car I've seen has got everything that it should have. It's also then had the plate to put an Aston Martin DB5 tail light section on a Mini is fairly distinctive, and it's there. But this whole car was given a really nasty makeover in the 70s. So the rear windows are like portholes, like on a 70s custom van from America. It's metal flake purple. The old DB5 lights are gone, and it's got square lights on. But everything seems to match up. But what he hasn't got is the V5 logbook. And apparently the DVLA, who are responsible for vehicle licensing in the UK, get about 600 inquiries a year for that logbook, presumably from people with cars of about the right age who are looking for an excuse to turn it into £1 million.
To bump up the value just a little, yeah.
So that's the Beatles Mini, and that's why that's happening.
Fantastic. Well, that's well. Just, I mean, not to be to harp on about it, but when you talked about something being customizing with bad paint, I thought perfect Scalextric modification, but never mind.
Sorry, Simon.
Yeah, sorry. Moving on.
You've been buying things.
I bought a brown. I bought the Renault, obviously, because I had to, and I bought another Group B car, which is a Rothmans Opel Manta from Avant Slot, and it obviously was an early one because it's a sidewinder chassis with a drop arm guide, and the other ones that I've got don't have any of those. So it's a little bit different at that point. And I had a huge chassis when I took it out of the box, and it seemed to have never been out of its box. The ride height was so low that basically I was getting more traction out of the crown wheel than I was the tyres, because it was sort of just dragging its bum along the ground like a puppy dog with worms. And there was adjustments, there was little grub screws and things. I kind of adjusted them, and it didn't seem to do anything. It just kind of bits fell off rather than. Anyway, eventually I took the Brave pill, and I undid the grub screws completely, pushed the axle down, and then put the grub screws in from the other end, and it seems to work. So I'm leaving it alone because that's like advanced tuning in my book. So I don't know whether that's the way it was meant to be, or whether somebody had. It didn't seem to have been run, and I can't see why anyone would have made it hard to run by making the arse end drag along the ground. But it now sits quite. I mean, I know Mantas in period they did kind of sit nose up.
I think it's an Avant slot, basically. I've never had an Avant slot. I don't think that I haven't had to completely disassemble the chassis out of the box and then put it back together again. But
it's a my youth watching World of Sport for the rally reports from Barry Hinchcliffe. A Rothmans Ascona and a Rothmans Manta were very influential. My first car my second car, first car I bought with my own money, was a Manta. Not entirely unrelated to that. So it's nice. It's very quick, but I don't. It won't be coming anywhere near the club. Put it that way. It's for
They're quite flimsy feeling, aren't they? You sort of worry.
Well, yeah, and I think I did use the first one I bought, which was the Marlboro livery way back. I remember using it at Oxford for a rally way back, probably 10 odd years ago. And I think I broke the crown wheel sort of thing. So they kind of just confirmed to me, these are too fragile to take out to play. But that's the benefit of, people might think, Scott's running his little slot rallies on his own. Isn't that a bit sad? No, I'm having a lot of fun, and I don't break my cars, so it's all jolly good. Well, I don't break my cars often, and if I do, it's my fault. There's a distinction there. There's nothing worse than but at least I can only blame myself if I knock a wing mirror off or I go careering. My track design, my track, I should explain, is at sort of desk height or slightly above desk height. So when I'm designing a track, it's crucial to have anywhere which cars might end up deslotting and going off the end has got to have, fences and buildings or something just to stop them. When I originally built the track, 10, 15 years ago, my cunning but not so clever plan was to use netting, like a sort of extended table tennis net type thing. I think it was a tennis net, which I had mounted on shelf mountings because they were you could screw them on. So I had these posts with this netting. I thought, this is fantastic. The cars will go off, they'll go into the netting, and that'll be for them.
Sounds perfect.
No harm will come to them. No, I mean, it broke more things because, of course, the cars, the netting just rips off little bits, basically. It was like a car grater. So they didn't hit the ground, but they'd probably have been better off if they had. Anyway, so crucially, no deslotting is a key thing. I'm always very nervous when I have visitors who are not slot carists around.
Yeah.
When you think, oh yeah, so make sure. That's why the polycar set cars are absolutely perfect for that, because they go really fast. But when they come off, nothing's happening. These are absolutely fine. There you go. That's brought back memory. So no, that's all. I think that's all I've bought. I shouldn't have bought. I haven't been down to pick up my Lotus because I'm waiting. What I do is I order at Gauge Master, and then instead of it coming to me, I use it as an excuse to go on a wee drive down to the coast and go into the shop and pick it up. But I'm waiting because the Carrera Fassbinder 911 is surely imminent.
Oh yes.
But they haven't called me to say that that's in, so I'm saving that for a trip to come back with those two. But and then I must stop. On record, I must stop
till the next one. And I blotted my copybook last night, having been to Barcelona and successfully avoided buying any slot cars. I then came home and went on eBay and bought a slot car. So I bought a Scalextric Camaro, the 79 one in silver, the road car version. It's the best muscle car at our club anyway for racing. And it also fits with my slightly taking off Miami Vice cars set that I'm sort of putting together. So there was an episode where two guys turned up to buy some drugs and immediately got shot, and they turned up in that particular Camaro. So there we go. It fits. I'm having it. And it was a good snipe with 7 seconds to go on eBay last night when I was frustrated at having been to Spain and not having bought anything.
It's funny how that works.
Yeah. I mean, I've been my first two for the Miami Vice fleet are real cheapies. One was I bought the Starsky and Hutch set for pennies because it didn't have a box and the car's well used, but the Torino was complete and everything else. But the Corvette was in bits. So I had a Corvette which I used to race, and I've taken all the bits off that, and that was fine. So that was effectively a free car. And then the Porsche 911 that I've done was one of the clubs I bought in the sell-off of assets. I think it cost me £6 for an SCX Porsche 911, which has been sitting there going, do I want to be a rally car? Do I want to be this? Do I want to be that? And then I remembered the brown Matchbox diecast model that I had. It was my favourite car, which was brown. You see, brown cars matter. And it looks suitably Miami Vice in its own thing. And I put a picture up of them when I've finished them. I put it on Instagram. And Kevin, the old man in his shed on Instagram, who has been a long time slot former, he sent me back my picture, having photoshopped in sort of the Florida countryside behind it because he rather liked the look of it. So thank you, Kevin. We'll stick that picture up because, yeah, brown cars matter.
Brown cars matter. Brilliant. Okay, well, on that, I think that's probably a good point to stop, as we started on brown cars and we'll finish on brown cars. So, thank you for listening, and until the next time, have fun with your toy cars.
Have a good week.
Bye, everybody.